Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Snap. Beginning the evening at rank 70 and 0 cubes as we are into a new season, the February 2023 season. I recorded this video earlier, but my mic wasn't working at the time, so I am now recording commentary later. MODOK was just released at the time of the making of this video, and today we're not going to be playing a MODOK deck. We're going to be playing Mighty Thor with Silver Surfer, Darkhawk, and Arnim Zola. From what I've seen, MODOK makes sense in a deck like the Lockjaw Hela deck, perhaps. I think it makes it a little bit better, but it's marginal, and so I haven't seen a MODOK deck that I really like yet, but I really like the Mighty Thor deck, and now that I picked up Arnim Zola, I want to try it in the deck. So we'll see how it goes, and I do think Darkhawk is pretty good in this deck as well. So for this video, for the commentary, we'll have the benefit of hindsight, or the benefit of not needing to talk and play at the same time. It's a pretty good hand to open the game, though it's never good to have Iron Man in the opening hand with the Mr. Negative deck. But Mr. Negative, Mighty Thor are good. So it's going to be a restricted board for a while. Mr. Negative deck doesn't like restricted boards, but at least all three locations will be open on turn 6. This hand will be Mr. Negative on 4 and then Mighty Thor on 5. And we'll draw Mystique, Angela, Arnim Zola from the deck. I don't anticipate the Silver Surfer nerf hitting this deck too hard. Silver Surfer, I don't run Bast in this deck. Silver Surfer nerf hits Bast hard. So the Surfer, instead of buffing 3 cost cards by 3, buffs 3 cost cards by 2, but he gains +2 power. So that's a nerf if you have more than 3 or more 3 cost cards on the board. If you have less than 3 cost cards on the board, then it's not a nerf. And if you have only 1 3 cost card on the board, apart from the Surfer, then it's actually a buff. But typically, I don't have more than 2 3 cost cards on the board when I play Surfer. If I do, it's like 3. So it would be a nerf of like 1 power overall, which is not too big a deal. Now it is a nerf when the Surfer gets inverted, because instead of costing 0, he now costs 2. Potentially that could be a big deal. We'll have to try it out and see how it is now. My guess is it's going to end up a little bit worse than before, but not a lot. So my opponent retreats before I can snap here and play my 0 cost cards along with Iron Man. Oh no, Godzilla is a player that I have played a number of times before, so I know it's a real player and not a bot. I've got the Mr. Negative Mighty Thor to open the games, just hoping not to draw Iron Man. And it's a Lamentus 1 game. Mr. Negative decks hate Lamentus 1, at least mine does. So it's nearly always a loss. I could probably retreat right now, but I figure I'll take a look and see what Oh No Godzilla is playing. Iceman tells me nothing. Okay, so he's playing the Shuri Zero most likely. Very, very little chance of that I win here unless my opponent just retreats early for some reason. No point to playing Mr. Negative here. I guess the best play would be maybe copy Sunspot. And my opponent snaps and I'm out. I was probably thinking I would copy the Mighty Thor or the Iron Man or something like that, but I'm not going to pay more cubes on the... Pay more cubes chasing that. So we'll play the Angela first here, followed by Bishop. I love playing them to the same lane. That is a play that usually seems to work out. Kiln gives me pause though, because Kiln comes with some urgency, so I'm going to play Bishop there. It can continue growing later if I need it to. And if my opponent doesn't play anything there on turn 4, then I will get a free lane win. And he does not, so that's good. Just need to win one other lane. Probably not going to be Fisk Tower. Now my opponent snapped, and I don't have Mr. Negative on the board. Typically I always retreat when I haven't drawn my Mr. Negative. In this spot though, since I've got one lane, I'm giving serious thought to continuing. It's entirely possible my opponent was a bot, simply snapping because they were ahead. But generally, my policy with this deck is if they snap and I haven't played Mr. Negative, or I'm not going to play him on turn 4, and also Iron Man needs to still be in the deck. If that's not the case, that's the minimum where I'll continue against a snap. But I gave serious thought to making an exception there because I had already won one lane. However, my opponent could have moved the cards from the lane he won to New York, so I think retreating probably the right play there. Here I play Angela to the right location instead of the Hellfire Club because I want to play Sunspot. And my opponent, seeing that that location is the super flow, immediately snaps. But I have Mr. Negative Mighty Thor in hand. As long as I don't draw Iron Man, I'll be in great shape. So he had Zabu on turn 3, and me playing to the Superflow probably figures he's in pretty good shape here. But I didn't draw my Iron Man, so I'm in pretty good shape. I may snap back here, or I can wait because when the opponent's already snapped, it's not as urgent to snap early. When they've snapped, they'll almost always call, even if you snap late. Almost always. It's probably like 90-something%. So he's running Shuri. And we'll get out the Mighty Thor. And we'll draw Iron Man, and what else is in the deck? Silver Surfer, Inverted Surfer. Not sure there's any other zeros in there. I'm not sure what I'm thinking about here. Thinking about whether to snap or not. Whether to snap now or wait until the next round and snap. And I decide now is the time. There's the 30 power Red Skull. And there's my Surfer and Inverted Iron Man. And then I also draw Black Widow, which is disappointing because I could have drawn Darkhawk. So I just gotta think about what order I want to play everything, where it all should go. Bishop, Iron Man, Mystique. So in this spot I'd still have mana for the Inverted Surfer if he had been post-nerf. It would have been 2 less power to Sunspot. I'm debating whether I need Silver Surfer at Crimson Cosmos. If my opponent doesn't put a power into Sunspot, I could get a lane tie there at least. So there's the Taskmaster. Iceman. So we are going to tie at Crimson Cosmos. And I'm not going to have enough power to win Hellfire Club. So the tie becomes extremely relevant because I end up winning on differential. If my opponent hadn't played Iceman and had put the power into Sunspot instead, I would have lost. I may have misplayed by going to Showdown there. Or by not playing Bishop to Crimson Cosmos. I still would have won the lane without Bishop. Minus 22 power is still a lane win. But all's well that ends well. So here I'm just analyzing my play and thinking about whether I actually made a good play or not. I don't think I did, but I got away with it. I was right that my opponent was going to use all his mana. But that was probably a pretty lucky read. So sometimes I'll play Black Widow to Sinister London and sometimes to one of the other locations. It kind of depends on what my hand is. Here I figure I've got at least Darkhawk and Iron Man I want to play to Sinister London, probably Surfer too. So I didn't want to spend a slot on Black Widow there. She ends up getting murdered at Murder World. That's not really a problem. Here I'm just hoping Darkhawk doesn't go to Murder World. He does. Oh, that's why I'm hoping my opponent's Jubilee does go to Murder World, and she does, so I guess that's fair. Jubilee pulling 2 cards from the deck is not very good for the Darkhawk. So we're going to clone the Iron Man here. Next turn it'll probably be Ironheart, Silver Surfer. Cloned Dracula isn't that good. Most decks aren't built for that. So, Ironheart, Surfer, I think. No? Oh, it's turn 5, of course. It's not time for that yet. I got thrown by the Iron Man coming out early. So my opponent plays Spider-Man to Sinister London and Superflow. Not too worried about that, though. I think Bishop and Surfer probably still gets the job done, or maybe even just Surfer and then put Tower into Sunspot. Yeah, I think just Surfer is better. And past me comes to the same conclusion. So we'll see if it's good for 2 cubes. We're adding 6 power to each lane, 3 to Murder World. We've got to outpace the Dracula at Sinister London. We'll see. No, Magneto. But no problem. Would have lost Sinister London anyway, I think. Not sure. But then my opponent draws a big card for the second Dracula as well, so yeah. That's alright. He had Magneto, Giganto, and Infinite in his hand. I don't think I regret going to Showdown there. That's fine. So the Bishop getting hit means the turn 3 power is going to go into Sunspot instead of playing Bishop, and Mr. Negative is going to come down on 4, so, well, no, he gets shuffled in. We get the Bishop back, but not the Mr. Negative. Now it's going to be Darkhawk. Darkhawk, then Mighty Thor, and then we'll see. But it doesn't look good right now. Well, Darkhawk, Mighty Thor, Ironheart, Surfer. We'll see. In this spot, the nerfed Surfer would actually be better than the Surfer that I have in my hand, because he would be 2 power and he'd give +2 to Ironheart. That's a total of 4. This version will only give +3. But I draw Iron Man and I decide that's the play. I figure I'm going to win Baxter Building, and I'm just hoping I win either Atalan or Fisk Tower. It's possible this is a bad showdown. Shang-Chi. Okay, so we're going to lose 2 cubes to the Shang-Chi. That's fine. I haven't seen Mr. Negative played yet in this video, I don't think. Or maybe once. Now we got Mr. Negative and Mighty Thor. But probably not going to be able to get any power to Plunder Castle. And if Mirror Dimension becomes Plunder Castle, then I'm in trouble. And it does. Isle of Silence wouldn't have been great either. So this is a good hand, but an awful board for my deck. Not much point in continuing in this game with this. I don't know, maybe I should have altered my plan and gone like Darkhawk, Jane Foster, and then Zola'd something to the Plunder Castles. Who knows, maybe it could have won. But my opponent snaps. I don't think I would have called the snap in any case. I should not continue here, but I do for some reason. My opponent has one card in hand. And two cards in hand. So I know he's going to play, or I guess that he's going to play Apocalypse to Plunder Castle. And I'm counting on winning on differential at Isle of Silence, as I'll be at 32. And now I decide I'm going to try for a sneaky play where I move Black Widow over a lane so I don't get topped there, or in case I get topped there. And it turns out I completely forgot that Isle of Silence disables ongoing effects, but I win anyway because of the sneaky Zola play. So that was a bad win. That was a bad play that got rewarded because I forgot about Isle of Silence. That's why it was bad. And yet I got rewarded by the cheeky Zola play. I don't know that I had any business being in that game. When my opponent snapped, I should have retreated because of Isle of Silence, but I forgot about it, and so I continued in the game and ended up getting rewarded. Well, we'll take it. We will certainly take it. So we got a TVA game. My deck's not very good against TVA. Now it's a TVA Weird World game. Alright, well. I drew Typhoid Mary, so go Typhoid Mary mid and we'll go to Showdown. Okay. I'll take it. 1 cube win in a TVA game is just fine with me. Still no Mr. Negative. The one time I saw him was in an extremely restricted board. And my opponent snaps, and I don't have Mr. Negative, so I'm out. That is generally my policy with this deck. Now we got a Mindscape game. Mr. Negative's decent at par with no name. So when I finally do draw Mr. Negative Jane Foster, once again, it's not a great board for it. It's a pretty terrible Ironheart, but I'm playing it just to get it out of my hand. And I've got Iron Man and Mystique in hand. Even if it wasn't a Mindscape game, this would be not what I'm looking for my hand. So I don't want to play Mighty Thor and draw my opponent a bunch of zero-cost cards he can play since we're swapping hands. So I'm going to get Iron Man out of my hand, passing over Mighty Thor, Mystique, Angela, and Sunspot. My opponent plays Galactus. And at this point, I'm expecting a retreat. I could play like Bishop and Doc Ock. Should be pretty good. Just gotta think about whether I care about pulling those cards from my former hand onto the board, and I figure I don't. So I'm going up by 14-28 here to 34 power. So I do not expect my opponent to go to showdown, but he does. Perhaps forgetting that Iron Man was on the board? I don't know. Maybe I should have snapped. If he was going to call for 2 there, would he have called for 4? I guess it depends on if it's a bot. So we got a turn 1 snap here. But I got Mr. Negative in my hand, so I'll continue. And no Iron Man. Mr. Negative and no Iron Man. Sacrifice Mr. Negative to the altar of death. And then see if I can take advantage of the extra energy next round or not. See if I can draw Iron Man or not. There's the inverted Iron Man. Great draw. Be thinking about a Zola play to get him to Altar of Death. But for now, just going to play Darkhawk. Good Iron Man and Zola now. It would be vulnerable to Enchantress or Rogue though. So I'm going to choose to save it for a surprise. I am not sure what kind of deck this is. Cord usually says Darkhawk. The Hobgoblin doesn't scare me at that lane. I'll still try to compete for it. I don't know why my opponent didn't throw Widow's Bite to the Altar of Death. That seems odd. So here I'm just thinking about whether I want to play Bishop. I decide that if I want to keep Los Diablos open for the Iron Man Zola play, my best play here is just Sunspot and put the rest of the power into the Sunspot. The locations get swapped, which really affects nothing. So here I'm going to snap, then I'm going to Iron Man and Zola. And my opponent doesn't have much of anything. May have been a bot. So I made good progress today, even though I made some questionable plays at times. Forgetting Isle of Silence and winning 8 cubes anyway was a big one. I don't think in any of the games today the Silver Surfer nerf would have affected the outcome. But it'll need playtesting to see how good the nerfed Surfer is. In this deck, it's possible that that slot could be better utilized by like a Wolfsbane or maybe even the new Zabu to discount the Mr. Negative. Though I don't have another 4-drop to discount. Luke's Bar. I'd like to leave the monster solo at Monster Island in case I draw Zola. Don't really want to use a slot at Eternity range. So I don't like Mr. Negativing at Luke's Bar to return it to my hand because it means I draw fewer cards with Jane Foster. But I also don't like using a third slot at Eternity range with a -1 power card. I don't have the inverted Iron Man, he's the normal way around. And without the inverted Iron Man, I may not be able to get enough power at Eternity range to win if I play Mr. Negative there. So there's Zola. Now I think I played Jane Foster solo to Monster Island. And the Zola could still win the location. Luke's Bar. Just wondering if I play Zola on turn 5 or 6. Could save it for a surprise on turn 6. I decide I'm going to play it here so that I draw more cards from the deck. And it ends up getting Cosmoed. Both Jane and Zola get Cosmoed here. Unfortunate. I draw the Darkhawk, so if I play Iron Man to Monster Island, Darkhawk to Eternity Range, or it could be vice versa. Should be enough to win. Going up to 28 at Monster Island. Going up to probably $19 at Eternity Range, roughly. Be up by 16, up by 13. I'm just thinking about whether I can outpace a Destroyer play or not. In terms of whether I want to snap. And I decide that since I can't beat Destroyer, I'm not going to snap. My opponent has the silenced Red Skull, which is going to be enough. I did consider playing Iron Man and Darkhawk to Monster Island because I was thinking my opponent would play Destroyer there, since the Cosmo was there. And that would have been 15 power. And I don't remember why I decided not to do that, but if I had done that, we would have tied at Eternity Range and I would have won at Monster Island and won on differential. So I didn't go with my gut. And it cost me. I lose Surfer, he loses Widow's Bite. He snaps, I don't have negatives, so I'm out. Pretty good starting hand here. It's a rematch from the last game. I don't play Sunspot because I have Angela in hand, so I'll play Sunspot after Angela. Interesting. Not enough energy to play Mr. Negative and Mighty Thor on the same turn. But I will play Mr. Negative, and we'll probably get out the Darkhawk here. Or maybe Black Widow and then Sunspot. Save the Darkhawk for a surprise later. We'll give 2 Widow's Bites at Camartage, clog the board up a little bit. Pulls Zabu, America Chavez. Pretty good. Now I'll play Darkhawk. Next turn, Mighty Thor and Snap. He discards Infinite, which means he's going to bring that back later with Ghost Rider. No need to play Ironheart this turn. I have plenty of space to draw my 0-cost cards. Going to draw Iron Man, Mystique, Silver Surfer, Zola. Definitely I should snap as well. Just thinking about whether I actually want to contest Lemuria or not. And I'm also thinking about where my opponent's going to play Ghost Rider, and I predict it's going to be Project Pegasus. Because he's already got Dracula at Lemuria, but with the inverted Iron Man, I should have enough power at Project Pegasus if I need it. So he Spider-Man's Camartage, so now I'm forced to contest Lemuria, but he has one card in hand, he doesn't have the Infinite, we know that, so the biggest Dracula can get is like 14 or something. Should be no problem. I just have to think about getting enough power at Project Pegasus to top my opponent there. So that's going to be Bishop, Iron Man. Bishop combined with Silver Surfer should grow large enough. Bishop, Iron Man, Mystique, Silver Surfer. Could even be the nerfed Silver Surfer, and I think it'd still be fine. Let's do it. Magneto. The nerfed Silver Surfer would have resulted in 34 power at Project Pegasus instead of 36. And a little less power at Lemuria, but neither of those would have been a problem. So we got the 8 cube win. And that seems like a good spot to end, as the pre-recorded video is now over. So, bit bumpy. I made some plays I'm not happy with, but I gained 24 cubes, and I am happy with that. So, a good start to the season. And thank you for watching.